Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cyberbullying Parents Guide. My last presentation of this for our webinar, our live webinar, got disrupted by some technical difficulties. Again, so sorry about that. So this recording is not with a live audience. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. My name is Sam. I am a mental health educator here at Mental Health America of Hawaii. Just a little bit about myself. I am a mom. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I love cooking, playing video games, but I'm really passionate about teen mental health, especially related to online experiences. Today, we're going to be talking about cyberbullying, and this is a heavy topic, but knowledge is power, and the more we know about and understand something, the better equipped we all are to deal with it appropriately. Also, if you or someone in your family has been cyberbullied, you are not alone, and there are resources out there. I will be emailing everyone who registered for the class the slides for this presentation, as well as this recording. All right, let's get into it. So learning objectives for this presentation include bullying versus cyberbullying, the impact that cyberbullying has on children, signs and recognition of the targets of cyberbullying, how to help a target, what if my child is cyberbullying? This is helpful for everyone. Prevention methods, and we're going to wrap up with some helpful resources. Bullying versus cyberbullying. So we will talk about motivations for all forms of bullying and then what makes cyberbullying different from traditional bullying. So the definition for cyberbullying is just bullying that occurs via digital devices or platforms. So let's first talk about the definition of bullying. It does have 3 parts, and all 3 parts must be present for it to be considered bullying. So the first one is aggressive or unwanted behavior. The next is some kind of a power imbalance. This could be social power, maybe age, or even power in numbers, so a group dynamic. Last is repetition. So bullying typically reflects a pattern of behavior. It's usually not just one isolated incident unless that incident or event had a major impact. So those make up the definition for bullying just in general. But what makes cyberbullying different is, of course, the use of electronic devices. So computers, cell phones, tablets, all those fun things. Before we dissect what makes cyberbullying so unique, it's important to have some insight as to why bullying of any kind occurs. Starting off with the big question, why do people bully? Although bullying of any kind is unacceptable and dangerous behavior, the reason why most people bully is because they themselves are struggling in some way. So we're not at all justifying this behavior, but maybe they feel bad about themselves. Sometimes when people feel insecure with themselves or an aspect of themselves, they are hypercritical of others, and they make them feel bad. It could also be because they're jealous. Another reason could be that they feel power by hurting others. Maybe the aggressor feels like they have little control over their life. That can be especially challenging as a kid, right? You have to live with your parents, you have to go to school, you can't vote, right? Not a lot of say in a lot of things. So this might be a way that they feel as though they have power in their life. An aggressor is most likely having trouble controlling their negative emotions and coping with things. So, if this person is lacking a support system or struggles to find positive or healthy outlets to cope, lashing out might be a way that they deal with difficult things. Next is that they might have been exposed to abuse in the home. If a child sees a caretaker, parent, or sibling verbally, physically, emotionally abuse someone on a regular basis, that child may pick up on that behavior. They may also think that that is normal or acceptable behavior or a way to relate to people. Last, in a similar vein, they themselves might have been bullied or victimized in the past or are currently dealing with that. Again, maybe in the home, they could perhaps be the target of abuse or neglect in the home. In a US study, it was found that 34% of children in that study engaged in bullying behaviors, and almost all of them, 97%, said that they were also victims of bullying in some way. So again, these are not excuses for this behavior or to say that it is okay. But if we're trying to understand and try to help mitigate bullying instances, we have to look at why it's happening. There are also a lot of reasons why someone may be at higher risk for being bullied. This is not an exhaustive list, but what it really comes down to is that people are bullied because they're different in some way. This could be based off of race or ethnicity, appearance or body shape, body size, any kind of disability, visible or not, their religion or spirituality. Maybe it's due to finances, maybe finances of the family, could be low income. Also, it could have to do with the person's gender or sexual orientation. Unfortunately, our LGBTQ plus youth do experience higher rates of depression, harassment, isolation, and bullying. So again, these are all just risk factors that can increase someone's risk for being bullied. It doesn't mean that if your child or a child you know identifies with one or more of these things, that they are definitely going to be bullied. So we learned that cyberbullying is different because it happens on our digital devices, but does that really make a big difference? While it is true that you can't be physically attacked or physically harmed through a screen the same way that you can with traditional bullying, there are a lot of other negative realities to the internet. Starting off with persistence. Traditional or offline bullying usually will stop after school or is something that can potentially be better managed or avoided. As an example, one mean kid in the neighborhood or a popular girl or clique at school. But now the technology and capabilities to bully are available 24/7. So cyberbullying can happen essentially anywhere at any time. Detection difficulties. Cyberbullying is not as overt as physically harming someone. It also could be harder to catch because there are less physical symptoms. Anonymity. The aggressor in the situation could be anonymous. It's easier to get away with sometimes because your identity could be protected online. The reach is also much different than traditional bullying. Cyberbullying can reach a much wider audience and can be seen easily by many people in a short amount of time. It could seem to the target of the cyberbullying that everyone everywhere can see it, and those are absolutely valid feelings and concerns. Kind of leads us right into the permanency. So even if only a small amount of people saw it, it can also be downloaded, saved, replayed, and reposted essentially forever. Okay, we're going to watch a video that's about 7 minutes long. I think this will give some good insight as to what cyberbullying looks like in real life.
You could be the meanest, most horrible person in the world, and if somebody sees you have like 6,000 followers on Instagram at school, or like you get a ton of likes, they'll be your friend. They don't care what you're like.
Are you gonna be on my side if I let you up?
Sure, Chick, sure. I'm on your side. Just let me up. I'll do anything you say.
When I was a student, bullying was always in person. In my neighborhood, the bully who lived up the hill, and we would be careful to not to go that direction, because if he was outside, he would grab your bike and harass you.
Get off, I don't wanna ride it.
Oh, no, Chick, not my new bike.
Oh, I was bullied
all through school.
And I can remember the kid who you all just kind of knew was mean to people, whether it was on the playground or other places. I'm not going to say his name. I'm sure he's a great guy now.
The bullying happened at school or on the bus.
The ways in which this person could have access to my life were pretty limited. In this case, it was the 7 hours that I was at school.
Now it's always available. It's going to follow them everywhere.
Have any of you ever been harassed online?
Yes, 120%.
People are still just like mean.
Yeah, they're called trolls. They just like troll you and try and make you feel bad.
Trolls are just kind of a part of the society we live in nowadays.
Our bullying did not go in front of the whole world on social media. To them, it feels like it went out to the whole world.
Personally, like, I don't really get those, well,
Where are the safe places for a kid growing up? Because as soon as I get home, everyone goes to their room and the devices come out and everything that was horrible about what just happened is shared over and over and over again.
By 6th grade, he was like bullying me on Instagram and my friends were telling me, and I had no means to defend myself.
Well, honestly, I do think it's worse to be bullied online because you don't know who you're talking to.
Big picture, he was bullied in a lot of different ways. And part of the way that also showed up was through text message.
You know, it was in person in school, in the classroom, divide and conquer, as well as cyber. And so it was coming at him from all angles.
And it would never shut off. But the cyber stuff, so I would block kid A and block kid B. And they would give Ethan's number. Then they started texting Gavin. They had Gavin's ID and messages were coming in through, Gavin was 6 at the time? They were relentless.
He was the target.
It was relentless.
When I finally did get a phone in 7th grade, it got bad because I also got Snapchat around the same time. And so I could now see what he was posting about me.
Every kid sees this happening. It's hitting a much larger and broader audience than it ever used to. You know, and sometimes people pile on.
It's another thing when the bully gets 25 people in a text thread and it's all directed at you. It's a different scale and it's a different time.
It's an amplifier for the worst parts of us. Let's take an example like Twitter. It's calculating what is the thing that I can show you that gets the most engagement. And it turns out that outrage, moral outrage, gets the most engagement. So it was found in a study that for every word of moral outrage that you add to a tweet, it increases your retweet rate by 17%.
If they didn't have tech, I swear they would have a black eye every day.
There are just so many more channels through which I can be a complete jerk that don't involve me being in front of you, which is the great neutralizer of cruelty. Because if I see you and I look you in the eye, we tend to treat each other differently.
He was having a really difficult time. He was very agitated. And it had to do with his phone. And I couldn't understand because we'd found some text messages on it that concerned me. And I asked him about it, and I took the phone from him, and we talked. We shared some tears, and I said, really, son, what's going on here?
A couple days after Christmas, the stomach pains got so bad we had to go to the emergency room. I was convinced he had appendicitis. He was in so much pain. He threw up 2 or 3 times. His blood work's good. This is weird, like we don't know. And I knew in that moment it was anxiety. I knew it. We got him through the other side, but there was a place there where it was so dark, I thought, this is it. This is that tipping moment where we lost our kid.
You know, certainly there's an element that kids need to learn resilience, and they need to understand that people are not always going to agree with them, and they may even tease them. And there's an element that that's okay, because we can't train kids to expect that they will always be shielded from any negative thing in their life. That said, it's important for a parent to know where in the spectrum it is for your child relative to where they are in their developmental cycle.
So it's definitely there. It's definitely there, but I'm certain it's probably more behind people's backs nowadays.
Cyberbullying is definitely, like Charlie said, a lot more subtle than people like to make it out to be.
So what happens when somebody takes somebody off Instagram?
Oh, it's a big thing.
It's a big deal.
It's like, you know, when you block somebody on Instagram, like you can tell, like we all know the signs of like when somebody blocks you on Instagram, and it's like a big thing because, you know, this person doesn't like you anymore.
that group photo where I don't tag that one girl. That parents may not pick up on that, but that is a subtle way of saying, I'm not gonna tag you, or I'm not going to like that photo, or whatever it might be. We've attached worth to those things. And that's a little subtle jab that kids are doing all the time. I see it, I hear it.
What about the constant awareness that you're not invited to something or you're being left out?
I hate that. Nothing makes me more upset than that.
When people hang out or do something cooler than you, they're gonna post it, and then it just shows like, hey, you're not here. You know, you suck.
I would actually be like, what did I do wrong? Like, I must have done something wrong. Like, I need to fix something about my character. Like, I just need to completely change myself. Who would be the person that would be invited, and then make myself into that?
It's not outright, and it's not something you can just see when you go online. It's something that's behind the scenes, and it's something that affects someone over years and years, and slowly changes the way they think.
Right, sorry, let me just pull my slides back up. So as we just saw in the video, cyberbullying can be outright vicious and cruel, or it can be more of those subtle kind of jabs, such as not tagging someone or intentionally leaving them out to make them feel bad. So we're going to go over those different forms of cyberbullying, starting off with harassment. So sending hurtful, repeated messages or posts, threats to hurt someone, even telling someone to kill themselves. And that could be direct or indirect. Indirect may sound like someone saying the world or class would be a much better place without you in it. Next is masquerading, also known as impersonation. So pretending to be someone else online to cause harm. This could be stealing someone's profile, creating a fake profile, and posting embarrassing things as that person. Next, we saw a little bit of that in the video. It's exclusion, so intentionally leaving someone outright of online groups, group messages, or activities, and unfortunately that is common with cliques or friend groups. Outing or doxing, so revealing sensitive or personal information about someone without their consent, again, to cause harm or humiliation. With cyberbullying, doxing might entail exposing sensitive photos of a person without their permission or sharing an individual's private messages publicly. Next is trolling and roasting. So trolling is when a person intentionally tries to get negative reactions by posting controversial, upsetting, or attacking comments online, maybe in a Reddit thread or social media group. Trolling bullies are less likely to have a personal relationship with their targets. Roasting is more of the personal and direct attacks on an individual, and that is typically done in social settings, such as a chat forum or group message. And try to keep in mind with all of these things that kids, tweens, and teens especially are already trying to figure out who they are. They're really sensitive to insecurities and social comparison, so they may have a harder time coping with these kind of attacks than adults would. And the last is cyber stalking. So persistent threatening behavior online that can escalate to danger. This could be from someone that the target knows or from a stranger. How much is cyberbullying really affecting adolescents? First, let's look at some US data. So cyberbullying does have a major impact on children and teens. A survey found that almost half have experienced some form of cyberbullying. The most common types experienced were offensive name calling and false rumors being spread. Now, here in Hawaii, we can look at high school and middle school students, and the numbers are a little bit better here than we just saw. But I want you all to think, what percentage of high school students do you think said that they had been bullied online or via text? So that is 1 in 6, or about 17% of Hawaii high school students said that they had been bullied online or via text, and 20% of those reported that the cyberbullying happened on school property. What about middle schoolers? Do you think it's better or worse for middle schoolers? I'm sure many of you guessed it is worse. So the same survey found that 1/4, or 25% of Hawaii middle school students said they had been victims of cyberbullying. And with middle schoolers, 41% in that survey reported that it happened at school. But why does that matter? What's the outcome? Of course, all forms of bullying are going to negatively impact feelings and emotions. So some psychological effects of cyberbullying can include depression and anxiety. There is just a general increase of risk for mental health issues. Loss of self-esteem, there can be an impact on self-image and a sense of safety that can be impacted as well. Isolation, so withdrawal from social circles, that can be both online and offline. Excuse me. And suicidal ideation, and that can be a serious consequence of cyberbullying. And these effects aren't just psychological, they can start to manifest in different ways and can have a major impact on the target's academic and social lives as well. So academically, cyberbullying can negatively affect your focus, class participation, and attendance. And socially, cyberbullying can negatively affect relationships, all kinds of relationships with peers, classmates, friends, friend groups, friend circles, and family members as well. It's also important to understand that for the targets of cyberbullying, these effects can persist into adulthood and can have extremely negative effects and a negative impact on their professional and personal life as an adult as well. Okay, we're gonna watch another video. This one's a little bit shorter. It's about 3 minutes. So it's a local news report from here in Hawaii. It's gonna give you a little bit more insight of what this looks like here on the islands.
Bullying and cyberbullying are more common than you think. The Centers for Disease Control say 1 in 5 high schoolers are dealing with harassing behavior in school, and it happens even more in middle school. I looked into how that's impacting kids and what parents can do when they feel they have nowhere else to turn.
Ejana Zaragoza Torres endured years of cyberbullying in high school. She says it was the hardest thing she's ever had to endure.
I was severely bullied. I suffered from depression, anxiety. I even attempted to take my life. I developed this really bad anger issue, I want to say, from being bullied so much hurt, so much built up pain.
She says the taunting and threats started in person, and things got out of control when her tormentors started attacking her on social media.
I believe that the bullying that I encountered online was probably a lot worse than the bullying that I encountered in person. It just spreads quicker than, fire.
It can proceed to hurt you without your engagement at all. And I think that's the part where young people feel like they have no control. Everything spirals out of control so quickly.
And unlike in-person bullying, Peruso says there's no escaping cyberbullying. It follows you everywhere. 30% of high schoolers report being cyberbullied. That number is even higher for middle school students. Studies show it can lead to depression, a change in interests, a drop in grades, and in some cases, it's been linked to suicide. Zaragoza Torres is now a youth coordinator who teaches anti-bullying in schools. She says the first step involves kids talking to a trusted adult.
Coming forward is being brave, and nobody deserves to be treated that way.
There are rules in place to protect against misconduct and bullying in schools. Not everyone is convinced it's enough.
This is not something that the department or any of the schools or the principals can handle on their own, because there's this larger social context within which young people are operating?
Personally, I don't think the schools are doing enough for bullying. I think that they're trying their best, but I think that there are parents who are feeling like this is not enough, and students who are reaching their breaking point. And as humans, we can only take so much.
She says the National Alliance on Mental Illness or calling 988 can help. And if your child is in danger, she says seek legal enforcement.
Your child doesn't deserve to feel that way, and as a parent, you don't deserve to feel helpless either.
All right. So we just saw how big of an impact cyberbullying had on Asiana and her mental health. So how can you tell if your child or a child you know is the target of cyberbullying? In many cases, your child is not going to tell you outright that they're being cyberbullied. So these are some things to watch out for online in terms of their online behavior. We're going to go over offline behavior on the next slide. So increased use, spending more time on devices, especially at unusual times, such as dinner, during homework, or if your family has offline hours, if they're using it during those times. Secrecy. So your child may be hiding their device from view and maybe they're avoiding using it around you. They could be quickly turning it off or changing the screen when you walk by. Hyperfixation. So they may only be concerned with social media, pictures, communications. They may have suddenly stopped using their phone or devices for fun things, maybe their favorite game. Sensitivity to notifications is also common, so your child may seem nervous or jumpy when they get a text, email, or really any kind of notification. They may even become withdrawn after getting a notification. And verbalizing concerns. So this could be direct. They could say, I'm being bullied online, but it's likely that they will be a little bit more indirect about it. So if your child or a child you know tells you that people are being mean online, they may mention things like there's a lot of drama online or there's a lot of drama at school. They could also say things such as, I feel like I have no friends. I don't feel like I can trust anyone. They could even express not wanting to have social media or use their phone at all. These are all things that we want to be paying attention to. Okay, and of course, someone experiencing cyberbullying can be affected offline too. So these are some behaviors and symptoms to be aware of. First is mood swings. We all know that kids and teens in general can be moody or have mood swings, right? But it's important to notice if this is happening more often or anything that is not typical behavior for your child or this child. This can also manifest as increased irritability, sadness, or anxiety. Social fear or fear of any kind of social interaction. So maybe a reluctance to engage with friends. Your child may express feeling lonely or alone, not wanting to engage too much with peers. They may say that they don't feel like they have a true friend. They don't feel safe or comfortable around peers. Have they started to withdraw from certain friend groups or social circles? This can start to be true for attending school as well. That kind of leads into academic decline. This is more about performance though. So falling grades, lack of interest in school, have they been applying themselves less or totally disregarding assignments, not turning things in, not preparing for tests, presentations, right? Again, more than normal. We know kids don't like homework or schoolwork in general sometimes, but is this more than normal? Is their school performance or motivation gotten worse all of a sudden? And physical symptoms. So as we just saw in the video with the first video that we watched with the mom talking about her young son needing to go to the ER for stomach pains. That turned out to be anxiety from cyberbullying. So unfortunately, that can and does happen. It could also be complaints of headache, frequent illnesses impacting daily life, or any other unexplained physical issue. If you've noticed some of these symptoms in a child or teen, or if someone being targeted has confided in you, there are many ways that you can support them. So first and foremost is supporting your child emotionally. Ensure that your child is and feels safe. Their safety should always be the priority. Next is listen, learn, and guide. Okay, so talk with your child about what's going on in a calm manner. This is going to be difficult. You can try and channel Michael Caine, who says, be like a duck, calm on the surface, but always paddling like the Dickens underneath, right? So on the surface, the duck looks super relaxed and calm, like they're just floating along, super chill. But underneath the water, they're kicking their legs. They're working really hard to get where they need to go and to stay afloat. So while it may be very difficult, really try your best to refrain from freaking out. That might stress your kiddo out even more. It might make them feel like you're taking away from or minimizing their pain. Excuse me. So take the time to learn exactly what happened and understand that it is probably a complex situation. Validate their feelings, ask them what they would like to see happen next. Also, speaking with a mental health professional is never a bad idea. It can be extremely beneficial, especially in cyberbullying cases. Your child may prefer to talk with a third party who is going to be more objective, especially if the cyberbullying involved something that they feel is embarrassing, personal, or private. Offer reassurance and strategies. So reassure them that they're not at fault and that they have your unconditional support. It's really important for this parent or trusted adult to follow through with both words and actions that their goal is to end the bullying. Helping your child develop coping strategies can also be really beneficial. So teach them healthy ways to deal with and cope with bullying, such as speaking with an adult, reporting it to a trusted adult, right? Walking away, journaling about it, standing up for themselves calmly. Being the target of bullying or cyberbullying can be really isolating and lonely. So it's really important to first focus on supporting your child emotionally above everything else. Once you've connected and made sure that your child's feeling more safe, supported, and grounded, then you can take action to stop the cyberbullying. So first of all, we need to collect that evidence, make screenshots, recordings of conversations, messages, pictures, videos, really anything that can serve as clear proof of cyberbullying. If you can, try to keep notes on other relevant details such as location, frequency, severity of harm, any other third-party involvement or witnesses, and the backstory of the incident, if possible, right? Maybe this was something that started at school and got taken online after school. Stop future attacks by blocking the known offenders. So if your child is being bullied on a social media or gaming platform, you can set up privacy controls to block the person who was doing the bullying from contacting your child. Also, contact the content provider. Cyberbullying does violate the terms of service for all legitimate service providers, things like websites, apps, gaming networks, internets, even cell phone companies. So regardless of whether your child or this child can identify who is harassing them, contacting the relevant provider is most likely going to be an easy first step. And for reporting, just make sure you can provide the username or any other account information you can find or digital evidence. For different circumstances, you can take these additional steps as you see fit. So first off is to work with the school. All schools in the US have a bullying policy, and most do cover cyberbullying. So if the target and the aggressor go to the same school, talk with the admin. Your child may not want you to do this. They might feel embarrassed, or like this may spread the news about it even further. But ultimately, your child has the right to feel safe at school. No teacher or admin should be perpetuating this, right, or making it worse. Teachers are and educators are responsible to ensure that your child feels safe at school. So it's really important that they're aware and can be that safe space for your child at school. If the bullying is based on race, sex, or disability, you could contact the Office of Civil Rights within the U.S. Department of Education, especially if the incident is associated with a public school. No student should be limited or restricted in their ability to learn, thrive, and feel safe at school due to targeted discrimination. Last is to contact the police. Most states have clear laws prohibiting physical threats, stalking, coercion, blackmail, or the creation and exchange of sexually explicit content of minors. So law enforcement can assist in these cases either formally or informally. And just a PSA about sexting for parents here. For anyone under the age of 18, sending or receiving explicit messages of anyone under the age of 18 is considered possession of or distribution of child sex abuse material, also known as child pornography, right? So if charges are brought, the offending party must register as a sex offender, and that will follow you for the rest of your life. So just make sure your kids know that and understand that once something's out there, you really can't be taken back. Okay, some urges to fight. This is a really tough situation for any parent to navigate, especially when emotions are high, and I'm sure they will be. It's completely valid and normal to have those strong feelings of anger and an urge to handle things by yourself. Unfortunately, this is unlikely to help the situation, and it can even exacerbate it. So the key is to focus on calming the situation and providing support to the child, guiding them towards constructive actions. So first up, instead of allowing or even encouraging your child to retaliate, try to validate your child's feelings and reconnect. This is a crucial time for rebuilding your child's confidence. Reassure them that they're not alone, that they are valued, and that you are there to support them no matter what. Second is, instead of automatically restricting all online access, you could try a more balanced approach. So instead of a full ban, you could try using parental controls and monitoring tools to limit access to specific apps or platforms where the bullying is happening. And I am going to spend a minute talking about this because I know it may sound weird at first. So while you may feel like removing your child from harm is what you need to do and that you need to restrict all access, you absolutely should be removing your child from harm. But it is very important for victims to maintain contact with friends. For many kids, online access is their primary way of connecting with friends and socializing. So removing access entirely can isolate them further, and that might actually exacerbate their emotions and make them feel even worse. Allowing some access could also prevent escalation. So while it is tempting to shut everything down, in some cases, it might be more helpful to teach the child how to set boundaries online. So reporting and blocking the bullies. Encourage them to feel empowered in online spaces, and that can help them feel like they're gaining some control back in that situation as well. That being said, if your child is experiencing emotional overload or a lack of support from friends or allies on and offline, blocking access and removing them could be the best thing in those situations. So absolutely use your best judgment and talk with your child too. Last is to refrain from contacting the parents of the one doing the bullying. We really have no idea what happens in other people's homes. Yeah. So some guardians or parents who are confronted with accusations that their kid is engaging in cyberbullying or bullying behaviors might become defensive, and things can get escalated really quickly in those situations. So remember, the goal is to stop the bullying, not to get even or make anyone else feel bad. Everyone in this situation is already losing out, so it's important to avoid any additional drama or retaliation. So instead, again, try talking with the school, work with the teachers, school counselors is great, or administration to address the issue in a way that's constructive and makes your child feel safe at school. What if my child is doing the cyberbullying? What if my child is the aggressor in this situation? As I mentioned earlier, this is really important for everyone to look out for. Okay, so some signs of a cyberbullying aggressor. First up is behavioral changes online. So excessive secrecy about online activity. They may, similar to the last, they may close apps quickly or screens when you approach. They may be spending excessive time online, especially on social media. Frequent laughter or excitement while using their phone or computer they could be laughing at someone else's expense. So just try to pay attention. Conversations and social dynamics may also change or be concerning. So talking negatively about certain peers, enjoying drama or conflicts online, they may relish in gossip or arguments, teasing in group chats, or comment sections, right? They could be trying to isolate a peer, maybe by encouraging others to exclude someone. Changes in friend groups or social dynamics is also something to pay attention to. So if your child suddenly is losing friends or becomes the dominant in social situations, it could signal that manipulation or bullying behavior is happening there. Emotional or attitude shifts, so a lack of empathy or dismissive attitude towards other feelings. They may downplay the impact of negative behavior online. They also may have increased frustration or anger if their device is taken away. This could signal a dependency on controlling social dynamics online. And digital footprint and community feedback. So if you're able to review their messages, look for rude, teasing, or threatening communications, any messages or comments with hurtful or harmful content. Multiple social media accounts, having burner accounts, right, or anonymous, that can sometimes be a red flag, right? There's really no need for those. And of course, if teachers, other parents, or your child's friends or peers are hinting at or telling you that your child is involved in issues related to social media or online conflict, it's important to investigate that further. Okay, first steps to take if your child is the aggressor in this situation. First up is just acknowledging the issue. I found it necessary to put that because it's going to be a hard pill to swallow. As a parent or guardian, it's definitely going to be hard, but it really is important to accept the reality that your child could be engaging in online behaviors that are hurting others. Rather than trying to trivialize, rationalize, or ignore it, realize that anyone can be cruel to others given the right circumstances. Remain calm. Yes, again, this is going to be difficult, but when addressing cyberbullying, try to discuss the issue as level-headed as you can without demonizing, disrespecting, or judging your child. Remember that your child is not the problem, their behavior is. Yes, they've made some bad decisions and have hurt people, and that absolutely needs to be addressed and dealt with and talked through. But remember, they are still kids with developing brains who are learning how to act and relate in this world. So try your best not to shame them. This could also lead them to lash out and retaliate or shut down if they feel attacked or victimized themselves, and no progress is going to be made in that case. Of course, we want to stop the bullying, so get the bullying to end and never happen again. Ensure that all instances of bullying are stopped immediately, regardless of who started it. No one deserves to be mistreated for any reason ever. Investigate. So take measures to thoroughly find out the extent of that child's bullying. It could span multiple devices and online environments, right? So this also could be direct or indirect, as we've seen. Work fully to understand what happened and where so that we can put an end to it all. Last is to understand the root of the problem. Hurt people hurt people. I love this saying because it's so true, and many of us usually don't think about it that way. It's easy to just say, that's a mean person, or oh, that's a bad kid, but it's critical to identify the reasons your child has acted out. Is it an unhealthy way of coping with stress in their life? Is it because they themselves are feeling victimized in some way? Is it because there's no rules in place and they're kind of pushing boundaries, testing boundaries? Is it a cry for help? Try to get to the bottom of the issue to tackle it at the root, and this will hopefully take away any motivation, or at least the primary motivation for bullying. What to do next? So first is to teach empathy, right? Make sure that this child understands how the targets feel. Explain the severity of cyberbullying and how it would feel to be on the receiving end of that. Of that hate and harassment. You could use an example of how your child would be hurt. So maybe humble them a little in a loving way, of course. You could remind them of something embarrassing they did, or maybe an insecurity that they have, and ask them how they would feel if that was all over the internet, if people were talking about it, if people were commenting on it, and joking about it, making fun of them, right? So we all have our sore spots, our hot buttons, our vulnerabilities. Don't exploit someone else's. Next is to use parental controls. Monitor your child's activities both formally and informally. This can be done with apps or parental controls. We'll go over some in the last section. You could also routinely or randomly check their devices to see what they're doing, at least until you can feel, or at least until you feel that they can be trusted again. Last is to keep open communication. So many youth engage in cyberbullying to get revenge for something that someone else did first. So make sure that your kids know that they can come to you and discuss issues that they're having with peers, both on and offline. Try to give children the opportunity and the skill set to solve these problems in appropriate and safe ways, instead of resorting to revenge where everyone feels like crap after that. And for parents and guardians of either the aggressor or the target of cyberbullying, this is a hard situation on everyone, and there are some things that you can do to feel more empowered with protecting your child online. So first is just to stay educated. While I know that all of your lives are extremely busy, it's important that you take some time to continually learn about the new technologies and sites that your kids are on and using on a regular basis, right? This doesn't need to take a ton of time, but if they're on an app or a site, just maybe find out what it is and how to report concerns on it. Next is don't keep it to yourself, right? Share your concerns. You're not the only parent who has ever faced these problems. Even though you might feel that way, bad things happen, and our kids can make and are going to make bad choices. Bad things can also happen to our kids too, and unfortunately, that's just life sometimes. What really matters is how we deal with it and work at being better together and overcoming these hardships. So connect with others so that more of the community can rally around the issue and take a stand, as well as sharing stories or what has worked for you and your family. Like I said before, you're not alone. Prevention methods. This is both for targets and aggressors of cyberbullying. First, open communication, right? So early conversations, begin talking about online safety early on, ideally before they start going on these platforms, but anytime is a good time to open up the conversation. Mutual trust is, of course, always important for serious topics. Setting boundaries, define acceptable and appropriate online behavior and establish ground rules for your home. This could look like highest privacy settings, parents no passwords, no social media accounts until a certain age, no name calling, bullying, disrespect, whatever you want to prioritize for safety is a great starting point for those boundaries. Next is to empower your child. Let them know it's okay to report bullying and that they won't be blamed or judged by you or their teachers, right? They haven't done anything wrong, and safety needs to be prioritized. When adults are unaware of a harmful situation, it can get escalated pretty quickly. It can become a dangerous and even life-threatening situation. And stay involved. Have regular check-ins about online experiences. Ask them what they're seeing or posting. Even as children get older, it's important to keep that line of communication open. Okay, I just wanted to include some conversation starters to help you get the ball rolling because I know it can be uncomfortable. Even though it's uncomfortable, it's really important not to shy away from or feel too awkward talking about these things. Yeah. Feeling slightly uncomfortable for these conversations can really help to mitigate even worse feelings for your child in the long run. So, some tips for this is to stay calm and non-judgmental. Try to ask these questions or kind of probe them a little bit in like low stress, low pressure moments, right? Maybe in the car, maybe if you're going for a walk together, and listen more than you talk, right? So even if they're being silent, you don't need to fill that space necessarily. This could mean that they're just thinking deeply. All right, I'm not going to go over these right now either for time's sake, but I put some cyberbullying specific conversation starters as well as reflective prompts here too, just as another resource. Okay. Monitoring and supervision is another way to prevent cyberbullying. So know what your child is doing online. Just be aware of their friends online, who they're talking to and engaging with. Are they all people that they know from school, sports, hobbies, right? Are they family members? Are they around the same age? Is there anyone maybe a little suspicious that they're friends with or communicating with online? Also, the content that they're posting, does it seem appropriate and fine, or is it a little concerning? So just keep an eye on those things. Next, I keep saying it, use parental controls, right? There are so many apps and software right on your phones or tablets to monitor social media, text messaging, browsing history, and we're going to go over those in the last section in just a few minutes. Last is to limit social media exposure. You could try screen-free times, screen-free zones, screen-free days even. If that's too challenging, you could try just social media free. Reducing exposure by any amount is most likely going to be beneficial to your child's mental health. Encourage healthy online habits. So teach online etiquette. Remind your child the importance of being kind online. Online attitudes and behaviors should be no different than those in person. We don't say anything online that you wouldn't feel comfortable saying in person because it's most likely going to have the same effect on the target or the receiving end. Yeah. Promote empathy. So encourage them to stand up for others who are being bullied online and empower them to report that as well, not just for themselves, but if they see it, they can be that ally, that defender. As we talked about previously, maybe there's abuse and neglect in the home. So reporting can be helpful for everyone involved. It could be bringing attention to another child who maybe needs help at home or offline. Bringing attention to the aggressor in that situation. There could be abuse or neglect, and that could be a reason why they're bullying. So reporting it could be the thing that helps that child out of an unsafe situation too. Last is safety first. So explain the importance of never sharing personally identifiable information online. These could be things such as full name, social security number, driver's license, really anything that can be used to steal your identity. Other safety information such as their location should never be shared on the internet as well. And just some general tips for having a healthy, happy child, right? We want to build them up so that they're ready and able to have positive and healthy on and offline experiences, both now and as adults. So we want to be teaching accountability, help your child understand that their actions affect others, teach positive behavior. We have to model positive behavior, right? I feel like since I became a mom, I feel like my daughter is just a mirror of my bad habits. So we really got to be careful with those things. Lead by example and showing kindness and empathy both on and offline. Last, seek professional help if necessary or wanted. Consider counseling to address any underlying issues that may be contributing to aggressor behavior or anything that they might be feeling as the target of cyberbullying. There's no shame in seeking and getting help, and it's really important to connect your child to care if they are struggling. To wrap up, I'm going to go over some helpful resources that you can use to keep your kiddos safe online. Okay, stopbullying.gov is a fantastic website. It's done by the US Department of Health and Human Services. It's essentially a one-stop shop for all things bullying, including cyberbullying. They have fact sheets, tips, prevention methods, and other resources. NetSmart is another great website. They have designed presentations and tip sheets. They were designed for educators. They're available in both English and Spanish, but they can be really great resources for parents as well. The National Children's Alliance offers information, tips, and resources. And security.org, again, has information and resources, but they also include book recommendations about cyberbullying for kids, teens, and adults. There are a lot of apps that you can use for monitoring. These are just a few options you can try out. They may or may not work for your family. We don't want your kids to feel like their privacy is completely invaded. We don't want them maybe being sneaky about anything, right? So at the same time, as the adult, it's your job to keep them safe. So it's even more important to keep that open dialogue with your kids about how they feel about these things too. So starting off with Bark. Bark monitors texts, social media, apps, and more for potential dangers, even the photos and videos that your child saves. They also have location sharing and check-ins as well. Custodio is another one. They monitor activity. You can set daily time limits and create routines on that one. Net Nanny, they have a screen time function, internet filter, and website blocking, as well as app blocking capabilities. Rethink, I think, is an awesome resource. It's a free, non-intrusive app that effectively detects and stops online hate before the damage is done. So it is the first ever proactive technology solution, and it empowers adolescents by giving them a second chance to rethink before posting anything that could be harmful or hurtful. So this is on your child's device and you don't see anything. It will proofread what your child types, whether it's on a post on social media or in a text message, and it will flag anything that can be hurtful or harmful. They've found that when adolescents are alerted to rethink their decision, they change their minds 93% of the time, which is incredible. So I definitely recommend that one. No Bullying is another great resource. This one's more for parents. It's an app to help parents talk to their kids about bullying, and it was created by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And then, of course, monitor your child on the actual social networking sites that they're on. So reporting features and parental controls are available on these platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And just a little PSA for reporting. Usually on social networking sites, any post will have about like 3 little gray dots in the top right-hand corner. If you just click on that, there's an option to report. So super user-friendly, but if you have any questions, you can always do a Google search or search on the social networking site themselves. Reminder, I am emailing these slides to you. So as always, in an emergency, please call 911 as well as 988. And you can text or online message 988 as well. That is for mental health emergencies. For 988, if you have an 808 area code, it's going to direct you to the Hawaii Cares crisis line. If not, it will take your area code and geolocate to wherever that is. So I've added the Hawaii Cares crisis line for anyone who doesn't have that 808 area code. So also, whether it's an isolated incident, long-term issue, or for any other reason, counseling services and support groups are available for both children and adults, and that can be extremely beneficial, especially in cyberbullying cases. So I've added Mental Health America of Hawaii's comprehensive contact list for finding care. That is my email up at the top. Feel free to email me with any questions you may have. And I want to thank you all for your time and attention today. I hope you found this presentation helpful. Mahalo and a hui hou.